Okay, here is bisectors and triangles. Tequila, this is for you. Here is our first page, which says what a bisector is. Things you need to take note of is the definition of concurrent and point of concurrency. So you have to know what concurrent means, so you want to write that definition down, which is where three or more lines intersect. Okay, that means concurrent. And when you have three or more lines that intersect, it's called the point of concurrency. So just a little example. Okay, you do have these notes with you. Don't worry about the examples and activities that I asked you to do. Just follow along with the notes, and hopefully this will help you do some problems that I want you to do. So examples, if I have two lines right here, notice that when two lines cross, we call the intersection. So here it's called the intersection. But when we have three or more lines cross, so if I have another line and it crosses, let me adjust, and there we go. So now, yes, this is still called the intersection, but more precisely, we're not going to call it the intersection. And the reason why is we have three or more lines. We have line 1, 2, and 3. They all meet at point A. So this point A is called the point of concurrency. Why? Because we have three lines and they all meet at one point, and that's point A. So that's the information from this slide. Again, if you want to pause the video and take more notes, you can if you wish. Here is what the concurrency of perpendicular bisectors theorem says. Now, I'm really not going to go over this slide because I have a better slide for you to take notes on. Okay, so basically what we're saying here, Tequila, is that if you have perpendicular bisectors right here in red, perpendicular bisectors, notice that these three red lines all meet at point P. Now look at, we just went over this. If you have three or more lines that meet at a place, it's called the point of concurrency. This point P is called the circumcenter. Okay, the circumcenter is equal distance from all three angles of the triangle, which are your blue lines. Notice that your blue lines are all going to be congruent. Now don't write anything on this page. This next slide is going to organize everything on this one better for you right here. So make sure you do your little graphic organizer, because when you come back you can use this on any test or quizzes. So you want to know what the vocab word is. Here's what the word is. You have to know what circumcenter is. So here's my definition up here in the top left. It's the point of concurrency of the perpendicular bisectors. Now remember, point of concurrency means it's where three or more lines meet. So what type of lines? Perpendicular bisectors. What does it look like? Here's what it looks like. The circumcenter looks like this, where P is the circumcenter. So there's my point P right here. Again, from our previous slide, all these red lines are perpendicular bisectors. The red lines are perpendicular bisectors, and where they meet is called the point of concurrency, which is more precisely called the circumcenter. Properties that you need to know. Know that P to B, P to A, and P to C are all equal to each other, or congruent, which is the circumcenter is equal distance from the three vertices of any triangle, which I said in the blue lines right here are all equal. So I know all these blue lines are equal. How do you know if you have a circumcenter? The circumcenter is created by perpendicular bisectors. Now if we look at this picture, Tequila, how do we know the red lines are perpendicular bisectors? I'll pause there and see if you can answer that. How do we know the red lines are perpendicular bisectors? So hopefully you said that we know that the red lines are perpendicular bisectors because Z, Y, and X are midpoints. Those are midpoints. And we have a perpendicular line going through the midpoint. That's how I know those are perpendicular bisectors. A perpendicular bisector is a line going through the midpoint at 90 degrees. Now, things you have to know about the circumcenter is where it's located. Acute triangle, the circumcenter point P will be inside the triangle. So this is inside the triangle, outside the triangle, on the midpoint of the hypotenuse. Okay, remember that with the right triangle, you have 90 degrees, and this is your hypotenuse. So you have to know all three locations. Okay, now we're going to start applying this because there's only really one thing you have to know how to do is how to find the circumcenter. Okay, let's go to an example. Again, here's another slide about the circumcenter. So here is the circumcenter. There's P, and there's P. So P is the circumcenter. So remember, since C is the circumcenter, we know that P to each angle is going to be congruent. So there's my blue lines. P to each angle is going to be congruent. So there's P to each angle. So all those blue lines are going to be equal to each other. So I know that these blue lines are equal. Now you might be saying, well, what's the whole point of this? If you think back to the lessons where Mr. W and I taught about 3 points, and you want equal distance from 3 points, notice that you can also draw a circle. So if I have my point P, look at, oh, I have a circle and a circle. So the circumcenter is also the center of a circle. Okay, you don't really need to know that, but that might be a little helpful. Here is our example. This is the only thing that I'm requiring you to learn is how do you find the circumcenter, more precisely the coordinates of the circumcenter using algebra. So my first step, would be to plot points. Okay, so I'm going to plot my points. Over 2, up 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's A. B is over 10, up 7. And C over 10, up 3. So I'm going to connect them. Okay, there's C. Okay, plot points. Step 2, I have to check for a right triangle. Okay. Checking for a right triangle, that means you have to find all 3 slopes. Okay. So AB slope is 0. BC slope is undefined. Why is this 0, you might be asking? Because it's a horizontal line. Why is BC undefined slope? Because this is a vertical line. And my AC slope is equal to, now let's see, remember slope is rise over run. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4. I go down 4. and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which reduces to negative 1 over 2. Now, since I have my slope now, so there's A and C, check for a right triangle. Do I have a right triangle? You might be saying I do, because visually I think that here is my 90 degree. Angle B is 90. Well, that is the case, but you have to make sure. Checking for a right triangle, we have to check. Do we have two slopes that multiply to negative 1, or do we have both vertical, horizontal line? Now, here are my slopes. 0, undefined, a half. Now, a half times 0 is 0, so that's not a product of negative 1. You should say that, oh, I do. A horizontal and vertical line means we have a right triangle. So I know this is right. So this is triangle ABC is a right triangle because we have a vertical and horizontal line. Since we both have horizontal and vertical lines, that means I have a right triangle. Now, Dequela, that's always going to be your first step to check to see if you have a right triangle. Again, hit pause if you need to rewrite anything. Okay? So remember, just hit pause if I'm going a little too fast with the writing and you can't take down notes. Just hit the pause button on the video. So now that we have a right triangle, yes, right triangle, then find the midpoint of the hypotenuse. Because, by definition, the circumcenter, again, I'll go back to the slide, right here. Right triangle, the circumcenter is on the midpoint of the hypotenuse. So that's why I'm finding the midpoint of the hypotenuse, because I have a right triangle. So, if point A is at 2, 7, point C, and again, here's my hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is across from the 90 degrees. C is 10, 3. My midpoint formula, my midpoint is x1 plus x2 over 2, y1 plus y2 over 2. Okay? So, it's 2 plus 10 over 2, 7 plus 3 over 2, which is 12 over 2, 10 over 2, which equals my 12 divided by 2 is 6, 10 divided by 2 is 5. So there's my midpoint of the hypotenuse and the circumcenter. So 6, negative 5 is both the midpoint and the location of my circumcenter. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do another one where it's not a right triangle. Okay? So here's number 1, problem 1. I want to find the circumcenter, the coordinates of the circumcenter. So step 1, plot points. It's already plotted, so it's easy. But I need to know that what A is. Now, I'm just going to plot A, B, C. It doesn't matter the order in what I plot. I need to plot my points. I also need to have my points. So this is negative 2, 2. B is 2, comma 7. So that's over 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And C is 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So those are my points. 2. I still need to check for a right triangle. Why? Because if it's a right triangle, it's the midpoint of the hypotenuse is my answer. So, right triangle. That means I need to find my slopes. So I need to find my AB slope. AB slope is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I rose 5. And I went over 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I got to get my BC slope. So I go down 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Over 5. So my slope of BC, slope of AB. Now I have my slope of AC. So go 1, 2, 3, 4. So I went up 4. Okay, up 4, and I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So those are my slopes. Now I'm going to say it's not a right triangle. Why do I know that, Tequila? Because none of these slopes will multiply up to -1. Okay? So you have to make sure that it's a right triangle if you either have horizontal or vertical lines, or if two slopes multiply up to 1. Okay? None of these slopes, when you multiply them up, will give you -1. So, it's not a right triangle. So what do? We have to do some algebra. Okay? We need to find, now, step 3, the midpoint of AB. So using AB, I find my midpoint. -2 plus 2 over 2. Okay, and then I go with 2 plus 7 over 2, which equals 0, 9 over 2. So there's my midpoint. Step 4, I need my slope that's perpendicular to AB. So if my AB slope is equal to, my AB slope is 5 over 4, my AB perpendicular slope is equal to -4 over 5. Remember, perpendicular slopes are opposite reciprocal of one another. I'm going to zoom in here. Scroll down. Okay. Step 5. Okay, now that I have my slopes, I have my midpoint, I'm going to use y minus y1 equals m perpendicular x minus x1. Use AB midpoint for x1, y1. Okay, so let me do different colors. So x1, y1 is going to be our midpoint over here. Okay, Tequila? Next, my slope that's perpendicular is my slope that's perpendicular that I found over here. So it's y minus 9 over 2 equals -4 over 5 x minus 0. So simplify. Y minus 9 over 2 equals -4 over 5x. So y equals -4 over 5x plus 9 over 2. Not done, Tequila. We have a lot to do now. So step 6, I need to find the midpoint of BC. So going up, B is 2, 7. C is 7, 6. So my midpoint is 2 plus 7 over 2. 7 plus 6 over 2, which equals 9 over 2. And then we have 15 over 2. Actually, not 15 over 2. Nope. 13 over 2. Step 7. We need to find slope that's perpendicular to BC. So my BC slope, scroll up here, my BC slope is negative 1/5. Therefore, my BC perpendicular slope is equal to 5. So step 8, I now use y minus y1 equals m perpendicular x minus x1. Now x1, y1 is now midpoint of BC. So I have y minus 13 over 2 equals 5, because 5 is the perpendicular slope, x minus 9 over 2. Simplify. Y minus 13 over 2 equals 5x minus 45 over 2 plus 13 over 2 plus 13 over 2. So I have y equals 5x minus, let's see, negative 32 over 2. But negative 32 over 2 is negative 16. Negative 16. Okay, so I have two equations. So I'll do zoom out here for you. So I have two equations. It's okay, Tueo? So I have these two equations. I'm now going to go to step 10. Okay, step 10. And solve for x and y using y equals negative 4 over 5x plus 9 over 2, y equals 5x minus 16, which means I need to do a system. Okay, I'm going to zoom back in, scroll down. I know it's a lot. Stay with me. So how do I solve this? Okay, should be a system. Just set them equal to each other. Substitution. So negative 4 over 5x plus 9 over 2 equals 5x minus 16. Solving for x, minus 9 over 2, minus 9 over 2, minus 5x, minus 5x. That cancels. That cancels. Okay. Now what we have is negative 4/5. So I'm going to get my calculator out and do negative 4/5 minus 5. So I have negative 29 over 5x equals negative 16 minus 9/2 is equal to negative 41 over 2. To solve for x, multiply by the reciprocal, negative 5 over 29, negative 5 over 29. Therefore, x equals So multiply that by -5/29, and you get x is equal to 205/58. To get y is equal to 5 times 205/58 minus 16. So 5 times, let's go with 5 times 205 divided by 58 minus 16. I'm just doing this in the calculator. So y equals 97/58, and there's my answer. So 205/58, comma 97/58. Those are the coordinates of the circumcenter. And there's the entire page. So Tequail, if you need another example, let me know. I'm going to upload this to YouTube now and get back to me.